First of all, the fact that people think they have personal privacy is laughable. You have no privacy. The cell phone that you carry in your pocket, you're giving permission to those apps constantly. You're giving commercial organizations, what you and I have already said are less tied to ethical responsibility. You're giving them permission to collect enormous amounts of private data from you all the time. And do you know what happens if AT&T or Verizon sees some nefarious activity on your account? They do nothing. They might send a note to FBI because they have to, according to some checklist. But when NSA was collecting intelligence on metadata from around the United States, they were very specifically looking for terrorist threats that would harm American lives. NSA can clone my phone. I will give them my children's phone. I will give them the passwords to every one of my accounts if it means that there's a likelihood that my family will be safer from a nefarious actor who's intent on hurting us. NSA doesn't care about your affair. NSA doesn't care if you're cheating on your taxes. NSA doesn't care if you talk shit about your boss or if you hate the US president. Nobody cares about that. Your intelligence community is there to find threats to national security. That's what they're there to do. What Snowden did when he outed that whole program, the fact that the court, the justice system, the civilian justice system went back and essentially overruled the ruling of the intelligence courts before them just goes to show how the general mass community really shouldn't have a say in what happens in the intelligence community. They really shouldn't. You have politicians and you have the opportunity to elect people to a position, and then you trust them. That's what a representative republic is. You vote the people in, you trust them to work on your behalf. They make decisions without running them by you. They make decisions that they believe are in the best interest of their constituency, and that's how our form of democracy works. It worked. We were safer. Now that we don't have that information, and now that there's this giant looming question of whether or not NSA is there to serve people or is collecting mass surveillance against all American people, that's not really a true, accurate representation of what they were ever doing. They were looking for the needle in a haystack of the series of transactions in metadata that was going to lead to American deaths. We are now less secure because they can't do that. And that bothers me.
So you said a few really interesting things there. So because you are kind of an insider, or were for a time an insider, meaning you were able to build up an intuition about the good, the bad, and the ugly of these institutions. Specifically the good. A lot of people don't have a good sense of the good. They know the bad and the ugly, or can infer the bad and the ugly. You mentioned that the one little key little thing there at the end, saying the NSA doesn't care about whether you hate the president or not. Now that's what people really worry about, is they're not sure they can trust the government to not go into full dictatorial mode, and based on your political preference, your oppositions, your basically one of the essential powers, the freedom of speech in the United States is the ability to criticize your government.
Exactly.
And that they worry, well, can't the government get a hold of the NSA and start to ask the basic question, well, can you give me a list of people that are criticizing the government?
So let's just walk through that exact example, right? Because it's a preponderous fear. It's a ridiculous fear because you would have to tap on multiple elements of government for anything to happen. So for example, let's just say that somebody goes to the NSA and says, hey, can you give us a readout on all the people who are tweeting terrible things about the president? Okay, cool. Here's your 100 million people, whatever it is, right? Here's all the people saying negative things about the government. So now they have a list. What do they do next? Well, let's just make it simple. They stay with NSA and they say, surveil them even more. Tap their phones, tap their computers. I want to know even more. So then they get this preponderance of evidence. What do you do with evidence? You take it to a court. Well, guess what no court is going to support? Anything that goes against the freedom of speech. So the court is not going to support what the executive is asking them to do. Even before you take somebody to court, you have to involve law enforcement. Essentially, you have to send some sort of police force to go apprehend the individual who's in question. Well, guess what doesn't meet criteria for any police force anywhere in the United States. Arresting people who say negative things about the president. Now, if somebody poses a threat to the life of a public figure or the threat to life of a politician, that's a completely different case, which means the standards of evidence are much higher for them to arrest that person. So unless you create a secret police force, then your actual public police force is never going to take action. So all these people who are afraid of this exact situation that you're outlining, they need the creation of a secret police force, the creation of a secret court that operates outside the judicial system, the creation of a secret intelligence service that operates outside of foreign intelligence collection, all so that a handful of people who don't like the president get what? Whisked away, assassinated, put in prison, who knows what. Think about the resources that would be, the amount of money and time, and how hard would it be to keep that secret, to have all of those things in motion. The reason it worked in Russia and Soviet Germany, or Russia and communist Germany, was because everybody knew there was a secret police. Everybody knew that there was a threat to speaking out against the government. It's completely different here.